Yo, what's going on, guys and gals? Terra Knight, Seregios here on today's video because Seregios has finally arrived in Monster Hunter Wilds. And just like in the last video, look at this gleaming armor. It is absolutely gorgeous. You thought the Lagiacris armor or Lagiacris armor looked cool? Still not okay with that pronunciation, by the way. Lagiacris is still what I'm saying. But let's not get off topic here. Today we have 5 Seregios builds for your viewing pleasure. Now, before we do dive into the Seregios builds, it's important to understand how the Seregios armor set actually works with some testing that I have done personally. So we're going to go over that first. But if you already know how the Seregios armor works, I will have timestamps listed on the video for my builds, which are for the weapons Sword and Shield, Longsword, Hammer, Light Bowgun, and the bow, as I found that these weapons are the perfect match for the Seregios armor. And for those who are unfamiliar or not subscribed to the channel, in my videos I typically don't go for the top damage meta. I always prioritize powerful, but most importantly fun builds that suit multiple different needs. However, I do believe that the Seregios builds might actually be the new meta under the right circumstances. But that's enough yapping for now. Let's get into the actual Steve builds and take a look at the actual armor set bonus that we have and the weapon skill that we have. Every single Steve weapon comes with the 1 skill Bladescale honing, except for a few exceptions where they actually come with extra skills. But first, let's take a look at Bladescale honing. Narrowly evading a monster's attack while your weapon is drawn grants special sharpness. And as we like to do one thing at a time, let's actually go test it out in action. Oh, I know you're admiring my armor, aren't you? So if you pay attention to our sharpness meter in the top left and watch as I perfectly dodge, we have a new special Seregios sharpness on our blade. Now, from my own very personal testing, the Seregios sharpness gives your damage a 1.4 multiplier. It doesn't exactly deplete over time or something like that. However, it does get used up with subsequent attacks after you get the actual buff. But all of these are a 1.4 damage multiplier on our base damage of this weapon. It also doesn't eat up your typical sharpness either, because Bladescale honing actually acts as an override sharpness no matter what sharpness you're at. Now, typically white sharpness in Monster Hunter, if you do not know, gives you a 1.32 multiplier. And for those who don't know further, yellow sharpness is your actual base damage, as this is a 1.0 multiplier on whatever your base damage is on your weapon. And the lowest sharpness you can actually get is red sharpness. And with certain monsters' tough hide, it literally will just bounce off. However, as I mentioned before, the Bladescale honing buff is a literal override. So even though we're at red sharpness below the Bladescale honing, we're now able to pierce through monsters with the 1.4 damage multiplier. But as soon as we do expend it, we're back to red. So it doesn't matter what sharpness you are at, as the multipliers do not add together, so keep that in mind. And that's the reason why on the sharpness meter on the right side of the screen, most of the Seregios weapons have only a little bit of white sharpness, because this is a playstyle you're going to want to dodge a lot with. Now, before we get into the Seregios tenacity, its said bonus skill, let's go through all the individual pieces and see what we're working with. Starting with the Greaves, we have Adrenaline Rush 2, Agitator 1, and a level 1 decoration. The Waist has Agitator 1, Evade Window 1, a level 3, and 2 level 1 decorations. The Arms have Adrenaline Rush 2, a level 3, and a level 1 decoration. The Mail has Evade Window 2, Agitator 1, a level 2, and a level 1 decoration slot. And the Helm comes with Adrenaline Rush 1, Bleeding Resistance 1, a level 3, and 2 level 1 decoration slots. Now, the decorations are pretty good on the helmet, but this is the equipment piece I drop in most of my builds for Seregios, as you typically don't really need the Bleeding Resistance. And even if you are using Seregios' own armor to go up against Seregios specifically, Bleeding Resistance decorations are a level 1 decoration, so you can easily slot them in on the bottom parts of the equipment pieces, as they have a lot of level 1 decoration slots. But let's finally take a look at Seregios Tenacity, Razor's Edge 1 and Razor's Edge 2. Razor's Edge 1 extends the duration of Adrenaline Rush. If triggered again while the skill is active, extends the effect duration once. And Razor's Edge 2, additionally, if triggered again while the skill is active, further increases your attack. So what exactly is Adrenaline Rush if you're unfamiliar though? Well, Adrenaline Rush at level 5 or even level 1 states it temporarily increases your attack power after executing a perfectly timed evade just as a monster attacks. So this stacks on top of the Seregios weapons with the perfect evade. And so we're going for a perfect evade playstyle that not only gives you a 1.4 damage multiplier with the sharpness of the Seregios weapons, but you also get extra true raw attack power, which is multiplied by that sharpness. And with having 2 pieces of Seregios, or even 4 pieces with Seregios Tenacity, we get the duration of Adrenaline rush increased and even more attack on top of it. So this is an extremely aggressive build, and this is why I'm considering it to maybe possibly be the new meta. However, we aren't about meta builds, this is actually just a fun build in general. It just happens to be the best of both worlds. Now, as I stated before, with these builds, we have 5 weapons up on deck, and normal rolling does give you the actual buff. However, there are specifically evading attacks with certain weapons, and it's important to understand with the weapons that you're using, what weapon attacks or moves they have also give the buff. With the sword and shield, the back hop also works. However, another attack with iframes on it with the sword and shield is the sliding swipe, but it doesn't actually activate for whatever reason. They might have thought that this was too strong and they didn't incorporate it on the sword and shield this time around, not sure why. Next up we have Lonksword, and the foresight slash with it does activate the Bladescale honing. However, the EI Spirit Slash doesn't work with its iframes. As you can see there, we did get the perfect evade, even if it looked a little bit late. But I do have the white glow on my longsword, meaning I did time it properly. So for whatever reason, this just simply doesn't work. Now, surprisingly, but also not surprisingly enough, if you didn't know, the hammer actually has iframes on its charge step. And this does indeed work with Bladescale honing, meaning you can go for some crazy attack setups. Now going over 2 ranged weapons of the builds in this video. The light bowgun actually has its own special properties that we need to take a look at. The light bowgun and the bow now have Bladescale loading, but it does work the same. Narrowly evading a monster's attack while your weapon is drawn grants special loaded ammo or applied coatings. But the bowguns specifically also come with an extra skill, evading reload, which you might know from previous Monster Hunter tiles with customizing your bowgun. But it does state evading loads the currently selected ammo automatically, which is an absolutely godsend skill for bowguns. And the Seregios light bowgun does specialize in spread ammo, as you can see the level 3 on the right side of the screen. But we're going to get into that a little bit later with the actual build. So as I mentioned before, it does basically work the exact same way as the other weapons. Now you'll notice we actually have 3 extra shots, which is kind of like an extra little clip of special ammo that does big damage. Now, what is absolutely insane about this is it does work with your rapid fire on the light bowgun. However, another thing in action is the evading reload. As you can see here, we have 1 ammo in our clip, but if we do a typical dodge, we did go up to 2 ammo. And because the light bowgun does have a combo dodge, meaning you can dodge 2 times in succession, this means that we can reload twice as it counts for every single dodge. So in my opinion, I think that the light bowgun is absolutely looking like it's stealing the show with the Seregios weapons. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the bow has charging sidesteps to help you charge up your bow shots. And the bow also has a special ability to get a special evade, which also increases a lot of your meters with the bow as well. But because it does work with the Bladescale reloading, it means that we also get Bladescale close range coating whenever we do get the perfect evade. And so this is why we've incorporated the light bowgun and the bow in this build video, because they absolutely have some tools built into the weapons themselves that absolutely make crazy use of the perfect evade. But that is how the Bladescale honing and loading and the armor set works. It's all about getting perfect evades, and some weapons have some specialized weapon abilities built into them that actually give iframes and allow you to get the skill activated as well. So now that longer portion of the video is done, I do admit I wanted it to be shorter. My mistake, Terranites. Let's go over the actual builds now, as we now know how the armor set works. Now, our first Seregios build of the video is going to be a sword and shield build. Yes, you heard it right, a sword and shield main has a sword and shield build on this video. What? Anyway, I named it Steve and Shield Bash. Now, there's a particular reason as to why. Now, for pretty much every single one of these builds, you're going to notice that I have 4 pieces of Seregios for the bottom half, and the Numinous Crown is just an absolutely godsend armor piece. For the talisman on this armor set, we are using the Exploiter Charm 2 for weakness exploit level 2, and we're also using the Rocksteady Mantle. However, as I say with every single one of my builds, feel free to change this for anything that you like. And of course, we are using the Seregios Sword and Shield to get the Bladescale honing. Now, if you haven't already noticed, the Seregios weapons come with a lot of affinity built into them, and they do have a lower raw attack value than other weapons that are in the end game of Monster Hunter. However, the 1.4 multiplier from the Bladescale honing makes the raw attack power extremely strong at the end of the day. Now, here's the decorations. Feel free to pause the YouTube video or take a screenshot. But moving on to the actual skills, everything in action all at once, We have critical boost level 5 coming from the weapon, increasing damage dealt to 40% as we have a lot of crit built into this build. Now I also have Slugger on the sword and shield as well. Now you might think that this is kind of weird on the sword and shield. However, in the latest patch, literally the title update, a lot of the shield attacks with sword and shield actually got buffed. Now I'm going to let you in on a little secret here on the channel. Shield bash attacks, which actually admittedly a lot of people probably know, actually don't consume any sharpness on your sharpness meter. If you see in the top left, it's not getting drained whatsoever. And yes, that is correct. It does work with the Bladescale honing, ladies and gentlemen. If you do get the buff really quickly here, you'll notice that the shield bash attacks do not drain the Bladescale honing. However, I did test it, and the damage is being increased with the shield bash from Bladescale honing. This means that you can keep it for quite a long time, ladies and gentlemen. And what this also means is that Perfect Rush is back, ladies and gentlemen, because we can get the actual buff on Perfect Rush with the back hop evade, and it having some shield bash attacks in it. That means we can do Perfect Rush combos once again and have them do absolutely crazy damage. However, you are also free to just shield bash forever. And so that is why we do have Slugger slotted into this build, Terra Knights. Now continuing on with the build, we do have the Bladescale honing. We already went over that in the previous section of the video, so skipping over that. We have Adrenaline Rush 5. This is coming from the armor. We get extra raw attack power as we do get the perfect timed evades. It literally comes on the armor itself because this is an evade playstyle. We also completed Agitator level 5. You get an attack buff of plus 20 true attack and 15% affinity on top of it. This is just an absolutely great offensive skill in Monster Hunter, and I've always said it on the channel, as monsters just naturally become enraged, and when they get enraged, you also get a buff matching their power. We have Evade Window level 3, increases the invulnerability window, and since the back hop already does have really good iframes on it, we didn't go for the level 5 to massively increase the invulnerability window, as I found it not too necessary. We have Divine Blessing level 3 slotted in because we have a lot of level 1 decoration slots on the build. Has a predetermined chance of reducing the damage you take. This is another defensive skill. I've always said on the channel that is the absolute best defensive skill you can have in the game, as randomly but very periodically you take a hit and Divine Blessing activates and you only take 50% of the damage. Even having level 1 of this skill is absolutely amazing. Now it is a little bit RNG dependent, but there are no perfect players in Monster Hunter, so slot this in already. Recovery speed level 3 we did complete, as we do have 1 point coming from the helmet of the Numinous, but in the bottom of the armor set I did slot it in on the level 1 decorations. Quadruples the speed at which you heal recoverable damage. Now you could swap this out for anything that you want. However, tempered monsters in Monster Hunter are now hitting extremely hard. And so I find that this is going to heal your recoverable health a lot faster, and that could stave off taking another hit or getting comboed and not dying, especially combined with Divine Blessing. Weakness Exploit level 2 is also here. This is coming from the charm that we're using. At level 2, attacks that hit weak points gain 10% affinity and an extra 5% on wounds. Just a simple skill that lends to our affinity, our critical strike chance, and since we have a lot of critical boost in the sword and shield itself, and with the 1.4 multiplier, this is also just a no-brainer, as affinity typically always is. Now we also have Earplugs level 2. Level 2 is enough to get you through nearly every single monster roar in the game, with a few exceptions like Gravios or Zoshia. Now this isn't necessary on sword and shield builds typically, but I do have it slotted in this time around, as this is a build that's going to prioritize using shield bashes, but more importantly the perfect rush combo with the sword and shield. And if you haven't noticed in Monster Hunter Wilds, it's not as easy to break free of the perfect rush combo as it was in previous titles. And so if you're doing the perfect rush when a monster roars, you do not want to be caught lacking. This will allow you to complete your perfect rush, but also get the finisher to perfect rush, the scaling slash, which also got its damage buffed in the latest update. So slot earplugs in your sword and shield builds, ladies and gentlemen. Next, we also have 1 decoration slotted in to get us burst. Level 1 on first hit, gain a small temporary attack and element boost, replaced by a larger boost after the 5th hit. Burst is extremely good on sword and shield. We're doing a lot of little hits with the sword and shield, whether it's the shield bash combo or the perfect rush as I talked about before. And so if you can keep a really good chain of attacks going, you literally just get extra damage. And so we just have the level 1 as a barrier entry just to get that extra damage going. Next, we also have Shock Absorber. This is in every single build that you're going to see. Disables damage reactions when you hit a friend or when a friend hits you. If you happen to play in multiplayer, I'm now trying to slot this into every single build of mine. And that is going to do it with the skills that I have slotted into the sword and shield. Now there is a Seregios Tenacity, but we did go over that early on in the video. So if you skipped over that, go take a look. Next, we have a Steve longsword build, and the CD on this name does stand for critical draw. And there's also a specific nice reason for this. Now, if you're already familiar with the longsword, after a forward side slash, you typically want to go straight into a round slash. And after that, you do a special sheath. But what you may not know is critical draw actually affects the critical chance on your special sheath EI slash. And it doesn't count for just the first attack either. You can actually get a few hits from the critical draw, as critical draw in Monster Hunter actually just lasts a few seconds. It's not the first hit. Now from the special sheath state, you're going to watch our affinity go from 25 to 75%, as it does give us 50% on the critical draw. But you're going to notice that we actually get multiple hits of damage after it. And it only just now went away, so it lasts for a couple seconds when you draw, so it's extremely strong to have your affinity boosted by a ton. Especially as Bladescale honing is very easily gotten from foresight slash, and a natural combo progression is to special sheath into extra damage, and so it's very important to have that critical chance. So with another little quick demonstration out of the way, now you have a playstyle in mind, and now the critical draw makes sense. But for this build, we are using all the same pieces from the Sword and Shield build previously. We also have an Exploiter Charm level 2 again, and the Rocksteady Mantle. As I always say, you can swap this out for whatever you like. But taking a look at the decorations here, pause the YouTube video or take a screenshot, and getting into the actual skills that we have added ourselves, we have Critical Boost level 5, just going for the absolute top damage with this longsword build, as this is a very aggressive armor set, so we want to lean into that a little bit. Next up, we also have, yes, just 1 point of critical draw, increases affinity when performing draw attacks. Another barrier to entry skill gives you a whole 50% affinity, and as you just watched in the demonstration, it's actually extremely strong. Next up, we have Bladescale Honing and Adrenaline Rush. We already went over those, but we did also complete our Agitator again on this build. Increases attack power and affinity when large monsters become enraged. One of the best defensive skills in Monster Hunter. I'm always going to say that on this channel. Next up, we also have Evade Window level 5. Yes, you heard me right. We did extend the Evade Window on Longsword, as the Longsword does pretty much rely on its special counters and its evades, and so you want the foresight slash to be extra evadey. Next up, we have Weakness Exploit level 3 this time around. At level 3, we get an extra 15% affinity on weak spots and an extra 10% for a whole 25% on those weak spots. And combined with the weapon having 25% affinity, under the right circumstances, the weapon and agitator gets us 40% affinity. Then the Weakness Exploit gets us an extra 25% affinity on top of that, or even just 15%. And so for rounding down, we get 55% affinity from this, and critical draw up here is going to get us to a bare minimum of 100% affinity. Next up, we have Quick Sheath at level 3. For those players who are unfamiliar with Longsword, this does affect your special sheathing with the Longsword, as I showed off in the demonstration. So this is also another no-brainer skill on the Longsword. However, it isn't completely necessary. Next up, we have Divine Blessing level 2. We didn't go to level 3. This is another skill you even just want 1 point of, like I said before, but this is because we are prioritizing the Quick Sheath in the decoration slots on the left with the level 1 decorations, and so we bumped this down to a level 2, but you can mix this up how you like. But when you are screwing up with Longsword and you take a hit, it will be nice to have it reduced by 30% here and there. Recovery speed level 1 is just coming from the helmet that we are using, but it's nice to heal your recoverable damage a little bit quicker. And we have Shock Absorber, again, disables damage reactions when you hit a friend or when a friend hits you, and yes, most importantly, it is on this Longsword build, as Longsword players are notorious for absolutely ruining everybody's day, is what people typically think. However, if you're like me and you believe in the idea of self-accountability, you really just need to slot in this one decoration for yourself, and everybody in multiplayer pretty much should. So let's stop hating on the Longsword players, even if they are still the scum of the earth. Next up, we have Seregios Tenacity. We already went over this from the beginning of the video. If you skipped ahead to this Longsword build and you need to know about this, go watch the previous timestamp of the video explaining it, and that is going to complete the Longsword build. Next up, we have two versions of a Steve Hammer build. This one's named EP, which stands for earplugs, and this one is Evade Extender. For those who don't know, Evade Extender does help your travel distance with the charge step with the hammer. So this is just a nice little version that you might want to try out. But let's go over the earplugs build real quick. Just like in the previous builds, we are using the exact same armor pieces. This time around for a talisman, I do have the Power Charm level 3. For Latent Power level 3, one of the few charms in the game that actually gets you 3 points of a level 3 decoration skill. For the mantle, we are using the Rocksteady Mantle. I actually do recommend Rocksteady on the hammer build this time around. However, I think something like the Evasion Mantle could also work very nicely with the charge step playstyle that you're going for. But here is the decorations, and let's get into the actual skills all together. again, we are leading into this very aggressive armor build set style. So we have critical boost level 5, and we do have 1 point of slugger, just like from the sword and shield build. Obviously, this time around on the hammer, some people might think that this is a no-brainer. However, there are a lot of hammer advocates out there that actually do not like slugger, but I do enjoy this skill as it is another barrier entry level 1 skill that gets you a whole 20% stun power, whereas the subsequent levels only get you an extra 10 on top of that. So getting a 1.2 multiplier on your stun damage is really nice. As I stated in my previous builds, we have Bladescale Honing and Adrenaline Rush level 5. If you need to know about these, go back to the previous part of the video. We did complete our Agitator once again, plus 20 attack and plus 15% affinity when large monsters are enraged, just makes you more powerful as well. Latent Power temporarily increases affinity and reduces stamina depletion when certain conditions are met. And for those who don't know, Latent Power pretty much just activates on its own after a set period of time, or it activates once you've taken a certain amount of damage as well. So this is a skill that's basically going to get activated on its own and last for a while, which gives you 40% affinity and a stamina reduction of 50%. This is very useful on the hammer as you are charging up your hammer, and that requires stamina, but the charge step also requires stamina. So Latent Power is one of those no-brainer skills. We also have Evade Window level 3. I would bump this up to level 5 with the hammer and the charge steps. However, I do have level 3 because I am actually favoring earplugs in the level 2 decoration slots on this build, so level 3 is going to have to do it. Next up, we do have Divine Blessing though, one of the best defensive skills in Monster Hunter series. Every once in a while when you do take damage, it will reduce it by a whole 50%, and this can be an absolute lifesaver, so stop sleeping on this skill. We also have Recovery Speed level 3, quadruples the speed at which you heal recoverable damage. When you do take a hit with the Divine Blessing, or if the Divine Blessing doesn't proc, this is going to help you start healing a lot much faster. And this could potentially heal you up to a very good range where you're not going to die from a combo attack. And especially as tempered monsters are hitting harder than ever in recent updates in Monster Hunter Wilds, these two skills work extremely nicely together. Now finally, we do have earplugs on the hammer build specifically. There are a lot of hammer things that you do, whether you're charging your hammer and running around. Using the charge step can get you through monster roars, sure, but when you are doing your mighty charge with the hammer or doing some hammer attacks where you really want that big final blow to land, it's absolutely devastating when it doesn't come out because of a monster's roar. So having earplugs on hammer, or any heavy hitting weapon for that matter, is always something I really prefer. Next, we do have Shock Absorber level 1. Disables damage reactions when you hit a friend or when a friend hits you. I've said this a million times in this video already, but again, if you did skip ahead to this part of the video, you really should have this slotted in when you are playing in multiplayer. And that's basically gonna do it with the hammer build. Now there was another variation that I did show you, which did have the evade extender, and it really was just as simple as swapping the level 2 decorations for evade extender decorations on this build, as you can see right here, which dropped the earplugs and gave us evade extender to go a further distance when you are using your charge step. This could also be swapped out for more evade window, of course. However, this is something fun I was playing around with, and I suggest you give it a try if you're pretty confident in not using earplugs. Now finally getting on to the ranged weapons of the video, here is the Steve Light Bowgun spread build. This time around, we are using a different helmet of, just kidding, we're using the Numinous Crown again. All the same pieces from all the other builds. Again, we are using the Power Charm for latent power once again on this build as well. And we are using a Rocksteady Mantle. As I always say, swap this out for whatever you like. And of course, we are using the Steve Light Bowgun. Now, before we get into the decorations page, let's actually go over the customized bowgun mods that we do have and talk about the bowgun a tiny little bit further. Now, as you can see on the equipment info here, the double arrow up on the capacity of all these ammo types does mean that it has rapid fire mod capabilities. And this is the rapid fire energy that the Light Bowgun is capable of. The main highlight of this build is using spread ammo. However, normal ammo does seem to be pretty effective as well. And we do have a capacity of 3 spread ammo shots, but that is only because we have a custom bowgun mod, which does give us extra spread ammo because of the spread ammo magazine here. And for our other equipped mod, I could go with another spread ammo magazine. However, we aren't allowed to in Monster Hunter Wilds. So we do have the rapid fire mod. This can be changed for whatever you like, honestly. And for the special equipped ammo, I like the Wyvern Blast just because it's simple to use, but I bet the adhesive ammo actually goes really hard on this build, as you're really relentless with your assault. But going back into the actual decorations and the skills once more, ladies and gentlemen, and now that we know that the spread ammo is the focus of this build, let's talk about the actual bowgun skills first. We have opening shot skill on the light bowgun. At level 3, this greatly increases your bowgun reload speed and attack power of ammo when certain conditions are met. And this condition is literally just having a full ammo clip, and so the first shot gets extra damage. And because we do have have evading reload tied into the weapon itself. Yes, that does work with the evading reload into getting up to that full ammo clip again. So opening shot is extremely strong here. And next we have a level 3 decorations for spread slash power shots, increases the attack of the bowgun spread ammo and the bow's power shots and quick shots, which, spoiler alert, we do have this in the bow build as well coming up. And next up, finally, we do have Bladescale loading and adrenaline rush. I already did go over this in the beginning of the video, so if you skipped ahead and you need to familiarize yourself, go back and watch that part. But moving on, we did complete Agitator once more for attack plus 20 and 15% affinity when the monster is enraged, making you also just more powerful. We also have evade window level 5 slotted in again, as we're using level 2 decoration slots for that extra evade window, especially because the bowgun, as you saw in the demonstration earlier, does have an extremely good evade window combo that also gives you evading reload now because of the weapon itself, but there also are evades with the rapid fire energy, and that's why the light bowgun with the Steve builds actually just takes a huge spotlight, even though light bowgun is one of the least used weapons in Monster Hunter. If you don't play light bowgun and you're watching this part of the video for whatever reason, you really should give it a try, especially this build. It is absolutely devastating. But moving on, we do have latent power level 3. At level 3, affinity plus 30% and a reduction to stamina by 50% as well. Latent power activates over a certain amount of time or if you take a certain amount of damage, so a skill that just works on its own to get you 30% affinity, but the level 3 does specifically get us a reduction for the stamina depletion at 50%, which is extremely nice on light bowgun as well, especially with all of the evading that you're doing with that weapon, whether it's through rapid fire energy or your normal play. Next up, we do have Divine Blessing level 3 and recovery speed level 3 again, just like a lot of the other builds in this video, but this quadruples the speed at which you heal recoverable damage, and this combined with Divine Blessing, every once in a while you have a predetermined chance of reducing the damage you take up to 50%, and so if you even do get bopped while you are using the light bowgun, Divine Blessing and recovery speed can absolutely save you from some combos. Next up, like the sword and shield build earlier in the video, we also have burst level 1. At burst level 1, on your first hit, gain a small temporary attack and elemental boost, and it gets replaced by a larger boost after the 5th hit. Now this lasts for a few seconds, and since you are absolutely assaulting the monsters with a ton of spread ammo, burst is another nice barrier entry skill to get you extra damage from the get-go. Next up, we also have Shark Absorber level 1. Again, disables damage reactions when a friend hits you or you hit a friend. This is just a multiplayer no-brainer. You gotta start equipping these into your builds, Terra Knights, or I'm gonna get mad at you. And that is gonna do it for the light bowgun build. Now our final build of the video, this is the Steve Power Shots Bow Evade Window. A long build name, but it does fit in the equipment loadout name box. Everything is exactly the same here with the armor pieces once again. We are using the Power Charm 3 on this build specifically, and this mantle can be swapped out for whatever you like. Taking a look at the decorations though, and the skills a little bit further. We only do have critical boost level 3, but that is because we are prioritizing the spread power shots buff from the decoration. Slightly increases the power of specified ammo and arrows. This is all of your power shots, the B button or the circle button attacks, depending on the controller that you're using. Keyboard and mouse players, I don't really know what that equates to, but it is your secondary attack. But this is another no-brainer skill to have on bows. Next, we do have Bladescale loading and adrenaline rush. I did go over that in the beginning of the video, so if you skipped ahead, go back and watch that if you need to familiarize yourself. But moving on, we have Constitution level 5. What? Reduces stamina depletion when evading or blocking or doing other certain actions. This is very useful on the bow, as you are just dodging and perfect evading all the time, especially as the Steve build is built on getting those perfect evades. You really want to keep your stamina up with the bow, and Constitution in this game is a level 1 decoration. And so as you can see on the left, we nearly have every single level 1 decoration filled up with Constitution. We did complete our Agitator again, extra raw attack power and 50% affinity when monsters are enraged, meaning you only get more powerful too. One of the best defensive skills. I'm gonna keep saying it, ladies and gentlemen, Terra Knights. And next up, we have Evade Window level 5. Yes, this bow build is absolutely stacked with the Constitution and the Evade Window. Massively increases your invulnerability window. Bow is one of those weapons where you just do not want to take a hit ever. And because you are always on your toe with the bows, you could slot in some earplugs, but I found it not very necessary, as you can literally just dodge through them a lot easier. And as the bow does typically lean into being aggressive like that, and the Seregios armor set and the weapons do lean into that as well, I figured you might as well go all the way. But feel free to drop this to level 3 and change out the level 2 decorations on the left if you need to. And we do have latent power level 3 this time around. We aren't going for the weakness exploit like the other builds in the video. That's because this also gets you a stamina depletion token reduction of 50% with a bonus 30% affinity on top of it from latent power, which does activate after a certain amount of time has passed or if you've taken enough damage. So a nice useful skill that's going to activate on its own and really complement your bow playstyle with the stamina reduction specifically. Next up, we have another barrier entry skill. Again, burst. Continuously landing hits gradually increases attack and elemental attack. And as I just stated, a very aggressive build, so burst gets you extra attack from the get-go, and if you can keep it up, you're going to get extra attack even further. We do have 1 point of recovery speed. This is just coming from the helmet that we have slotted in, but most importantly, we also have shock absorber. Disables damage reactions when you hit a friend or when a friend hits you. In multiplayer, you need to have this equipped. And with that, that is going to complete every single build in this video, ladies and gentlemen, Terra Knights. I do hope you enjoyed this build video for the new Seregios armor set and weapons, which I gotta say, personally, I absolutely am in love with. It seems like Monster Hunter, or Capcom should I say, is trying to be a bit more innovative with their weapon skills and their armor skills that actually change up the play styles of what you're using a lot. I think that this build is extremely interactive and extremely fun as well. Not only this, but it seems to do insane damage as well, which might actually be the new meta. However, I'm not a speedrunner or anything like that. I don't always prioritize the top damage, as I like a little bit of utility as well. So if you enjoyed these builds that might be the new meta but also cover a lot of bases, consider liking the video or even subscribing to the channel. I am on a long road of hitting 100,000 subscribers one day, and every little bit seriously helps. Or you can even consider joining our community Discord server, which is built on Monster Hunter, but is also just a really cool place to hang out, as everybody there is just hella awesome. But that's all I've got for today's video, guys and gals. Terra Knights, as I said before, this is Terra the Regios, or Seregios, signing off. And I'll catch y'all in the next video. Peace!